The Padres even their playoff series with the Dodgers. And if you thought Dodger haters were loud when LA wins, boy, imagine what happens when it's the first time the Dodgers lose. Meanwhile, Odell Beckham Jr. gets all up in his feels about the Rams contract offer, and Jeannie Buss plays the woman card on a podcast. Good morning, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is faithful Angelenos. It's October 13th, 2022. It's a gorgeous day. I totally advise you to go out and breathe some air, because some of this stuff we're going to talk about, could be a little more pleasant. If you like the content that we put out about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And yes, comment. I'm not perfect. I don't always make the right call. But some of these, they're going to be the right call. Now, last night, look, it wasn't exactly Trey Turner's best day. He hits a home run. That was great. Commits an error in the sixth inning that allows the Padres to score the game-winning run. Not so much. Padres 5, Dodgers 3. Series is tied at 1 apiece, and it goes down to San Diego. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Meanwhile, the LA Kings are back on the ice tonight at 7:30. They'll face the Seattle Kraken. Granted, the Kings lost their game opener, but they were 3-1 versus Seattle last year in Seattle's expansion year. Okay, so the National League Divisional Series goes to San Diego. They're off today. What can I tell you? Traffic on the I-5. It's a real bitch. Wouldn't you agree? The Padres and Dodgers are each facing interesting choices in who their starting pitchers are. Now, the Padres, they're going to put out Blake Snell. And if you recall, Blake Snell, a couple of years ago, he was in Tampa Bay. He pitched tremendously against the Dodgers in Game 6 of the World Series. Tampa makes a mistake. They pull him from the game. The Dodgers beat the hell out of the bullpen. They get to lift the trophy. So you might be sitting there thinking, oh my God, Blake Snell, when everything's on the line. Blake Snell is not exactly a Dodger killer. He's had 3 starts against them this year. He is 0-1. Now, granted, it's a mixed bag. He's pitched 14 innings against them. He struck out 23. That's a ton. He's also allowed 22 base runners in those 14 innings. That, too, is a ton. He has allowed 6 runs in those 14 innings. So you're not necessarily certain what you're going to get out of Blake Snell on Friday night. In addition to that, LA, they've got a bit of a question of their own. They're sending out Tony Gonsolin. If this were any time before late August, you'd be like, yeah, we're going to win this game. Gonsolin's been lights out all year, but as we all know, he had the forearm issue. So they're not expecting him to go much longer than 4 innings, if that. And do they follow up with Andrew Heaney after that, as I've been speculating for the last couple of weeks, to try to get 4 more innings? Either way, Tony Gonsolin had 2 starts against the Padres this year. He won them both. He pitched 12 in the 3rd innings and only allowed 1 run. By the way, I want to make a correction from a couple of tapes ago. I incorrectly said that the Dodgers had a 9-game winning streak on the Padres. That's not correct. They have won 9 consecutive series against San Diego, which is one of the reasons why I would advise you guys remain confident. Those 9 consecutive series wins includes trips down to San Diego. So should you really be panicked all that much? Of course not. Now, I do think Game 3 is important, because if they go to Game 4, it's kind of obvious the Padres are going to come back with Joe Musgrove. Joe Musgrove, who last we saw was getting his ears molested in New York. Thanks, Mets. That was a joyous call. I don't like... Was it like me? Were you playing Endless Love in the back of your mind while the umpires were fondling this poor man? Look, just because you're a Padre doesn't mean I want you to get sexually assaulted on the mound. I don't want your ears caressed. I don't want your cup checked. Let him just be. But by the way, if it is Joe Musgrove in Game 4, he is 0-2 in 3 starts against the Dodgers with 7 earned runs. You see, there's plenty of reasons to remain optimistic if you wear the blue. But I will say that I got into some Twitter spats last night during the game with some people who all said the same thing. And you knew where they were from. They were either from San Diego or they were from San Francisco. And they all inevitably came to the same point that the Dodgers, that their last championship in 2020 doesn't count. And I think we need to address this because I'm really not in the mood to yell and scream as to why they're wrong. I don't need to type in all caps. I don't need to add 5 or 6 exclamation points after saying something. You guys listen. You either believe me or you don't. So, how exactly would you describe 2020's title as a non-title? Because first of all, it wasn't a bunch of kids playing Stratomatic baseball or going on their video games in virtual reality. The games were real. How do I know the games were real? I was in Texas. I went to a couple of games in the National League Championship Series against the Braves. Dodgers won one, Dodgers lost another. So the games existed. So that's one reason why the title's real. A game that's played is a game that counts. But the even bigger point that I would ask is the argument that you guys are often making is that it was a shortened season. Do championships, therefore, in strike-shortened seasons not count? Because I don't hear anybody trying to take the title away from the 1972 Oakland A's. I don't take 85 of their games were canceled. 85 due to a labor stoppage. Does somebody want to go fly to Washington, D.C. and tell the 1982 Redskins in the shortest football season ever that their championship doesn't count? Every sport. What about the 1999 San Antonio Spurs? By the way, there are more than just the teams I'm going to list that have won titles in strike-shortened years. What about the 1995 New Jersey Devils or the 2013 Chicago Blackhawks? Do you want to fly to Chicago, dodge all the bullets that Fox News says is flying all over that town, and then go into that arena and tell a bunch of Blackhawks fans, sorry guys, that banner, you should take it down, it doesn't count. I challenge you to do it. Please do. Knock yourself out. Because a lot of you guys saying that it doesn't count come from San Francisco. The NFL had 2 strike-shortened years in the 1980s. That was San Francisco's heyday with Joe Montana. They didn't win a title in that year. Having said that, if they had won titles in those years, you would not be so hype about an LA Rams fan saying that it doesn't count. It does. And by the way, there's a big difference between the players and the owners deciding not to play in a strike-shortened year, as opposed to the United States government telling you to stay home for half the year. So I would even argue that the Dodgers title is more legit than the teams that I mentioned. Finally, would you be a proponent, therefore, of other titles that would presume have asterisks to them or be taken away? I don't hear anybody saying that the Dodgers didn't deserve the title in 2020 and the Houston Astros didn't deserve their title in 2017. Nobody ever makes that simultaneous argument, even though they were caught red-handed. What about the next year when the Boston Red Sox were caught red-handed cheating because Alex Cora had to lose his job over it for a few years? See, who were they playing in the World Series? They were playing the Dodgers. So you could theoretically argue that had the Astros and Red Sox not cheated, not only would the Dodgers have 2 titles that were taken from them, but they would have won 3 titles in 4 years. So you got to put that whole argument to bed. It doesn't fly with me. Odell Beckham Jr. tweeted that he did not like the offer that the LA Rams made. Now, it was a drama-drenched tweet full of misspellings, full of capital letters and exclamation points, and Sean McVay is like, I don't think that's a lax offer. And I'm guessing they basically lowballed him. And if that's the case, I would reckon it's because of cap space. See, and so people are like, well, I guess this means Odell Beckham is looking to go to other teams. I don't think he has many options. Where could he land? I've heard Baltimore, but the Ravens have only $3 million in cap space, whereas the Rams have $5 million. Tampa Bay sounds like an option. until you realize they have $3.8 million in cap space. What about the teams that do have cap space? Lots of it. Do you imagine him going to play for the Chicago Bears and a second-year quarterback in Justin Fields? Nope. Green Bay has more than $7 million, but if you think the Rams lowballed Odell Beckham Jr., keep this in mind. Green Bay only offered Beckham the league minimum. So there's some negotiating going on. I wouldn't worry about it too much. A viewer also asked yesterday about Christian McCaffrey and what I think about Christian McCaffrey coming to the Rams. I can only say what I do know. Make a trade now? I wouldn't. The trade deadline is on November 1st. Why does that matter? The Rams have 2 games before then and a bye week. They need more info as to what type of trades that might be considered. And even then, I'm not sure I would make a trade. The reason that the Rams made those big trades last year for Odell Beckham, or acquired Odell Beckham and traded for Von Miller, is because the Rams thought they were a player or two away from being a Super Bowl champ. Would you look at the Rams right now and say they're a player or two away? I don't necessarily think I would. I think they need to know a bunch of information. I think they need to know if the offensive line is going to regain its health. I think they need to know if Van Jefferson is going to be effective when he comes back. What about that? What about the pass rush, which has been a bit of a dumpster fire this year? The Rams need questions answered before they consider making a big trade for a running back. The NFL, by the way, is going to vote on Tuesday in New York over who will ultimately pay the $790 million settlement for the Rams' move back from St. Louis to Los Angeles. This is basically a meeting about trying to save face for Roger Goodell. Goodell was basically trying to stick Stan Kroenke with the bill. Kroenke said, I didn't agree to that. There's a proposed solution out there, which again is a face-saving move. It exempts the Rams from paying the visiting team's share of the gate. In other words, say the Carolina Panthers come in this Sunday at SoFi Stadium. The Panthers get 30% of the gate. The Rams give it to them. What the NFL is saying is, well, what if we waive you paying the gate to these opposing teams for X number of years and you use that to pay down St. Louis? They basically want to make it look like Kroenke is paying the $790 so that St. Louis can be all happy without Stan Kroenke actually paying $790 million. Rich Eisen asked Jeannie Buss about the inner circle of advisors with the Lakers, and Jeannie played the woman card. She replied, I could ask you, do you ever ask Mark Cuban who his inner circle is? Or Joe Lacob, who his inner circle is? There's just something about being a woman, I think, that people think, oh, what crutches does she need because she's not capable of doing it herself, end quote. I have to defend Eisen on this. Because, frankly, Jeannie Buss's stewardship of the Lakers has been a mixed bag. Now, surely she's way better at it than her brother, who last time I heard was male. But I would also add, if you remember back when Dr. Jerry Buss ran the team, everything about the roster ran through Jerry West. Everything. And then for a time it was Mitch Kupchak. So now it's extremely muddy. Is it GM Rob Pelinka? Is it Magic? Is it Phil Jackson? Other people. We don't know. We don't know. And by the way, Ms. Buss, I have to be honest. Another reason that I think you're in the wrong to say that, I have no idea who Joe Lacob is. That's the point. The Lakers and the Celtics are the two marquee franchises in the NBA. And by the way, as opposed to Boston, LA is a major media capital. You're going to get the attention. And by the way, I assume that that's one of the reasons you like owning the Lakers. I assume you love the attention. We all love the attention that we get from being in LA. The Lakers get attention just because. And it's good attention and bad attention. It may be the titles, but it's also Magic getting HIV. It's the titles, it's Shaq versus Kobe. It's the titles, it's Kermit Washington damn near killing Rudy Tomjanovich to defend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There's a lot of pluses and minuses with owning the Lakers. You're simply going to have to suck it up. Being a woman has nothing to do with people asking how that team is being run. especially when we don't know who the hell's running it. For the Chargers, Keenan Allen has returned to practice, but it was light work, so it's not certain that he's going to be playing Monday versus the Broncos. And with 238 rushing yards after facing the Browns, LA has boosted its running game from the worst in the NFL all the way up to number 22. It's a start. Austin Eckler said they didn't change anything in terms of scheme. He just basically said, quote, "Our guys are working together, moving bodies. It's pretty spectacular." Me, I'm not in the mood to watch a whole bunch of male bodies moving around, so I'm going to go and be with my wife. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to leave comments in the comments thread and like and subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports here. I'm James. Thank you for watching. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.